Today for our daily cancellation, we turn to the New York Times and a writer by the name of Jennifer Weiner. Back in July, Miss Weiner wrote an article reflecting on a very important national issue, that Jennifer Lopez had gotten married to Ben Affleck and taken his last name. I only became aware of this article because Lopez reacted to it this week in an interview with Vogue magazine. And as you know, I am an avid reader of Vogue magazine. Before we get to Lopez's response, let's first review Weiner's piece, which is titled, Why It Matters That J-Lo is Now JF. She writes, the second chance romance leading up to last week's nuptials between Jennifer Lopez and the actor and director Ben Affleck was a pandemic gift that kept on giving for romantics and celebrity gossip addicts alike. Every chapter of the Bennifer 2.0 love story gave us something new to chew on. The most recent nugget, J-Lo's decision, first announced in her subscription-only On the J-Lo newsletter, to change her last name. Quote, love is a great thing, maybe the best of things, and worth waiting for, she wrote, signing off, with love, Miss Jennifer Lynn Affleck. True love wins, except also oof, Weiner writes. And just so you know, except also oof will be about as insightful as this essay gets. She continues, Miss Affleck may be surrendering to the power of love with this, her fourth marriage, but given the cringy history behind the practice, a woman taking her husband's last name feels to me like a submission, a gesture that doesn't say I belong with him so much as I belong to him. And at this fraught moment for feminism in America, a woman like the former Jennifer Lopez deciding to change her name feels especially dispiriting. Sure, taking your husband's name might be a way of saying this is for keeps, but it's also a gesture inextricably rooted in peak patriarchy, specifically an 11th century law of coverture, which held that a married woman was, for legal purposes, merged with her husband with no standing or identity of her own. That notion hung on for centuries and still endures in various forms around the world. Now, it will not shock you to learn, as Weiner reveals later in the article, that she herself has been married multiple times. She explains that she didn't take the last name of her, in her words, current and final husband. It will also not shock you to learn that she references The Handmaid's Tale, writing, quote, the idea of taking a husband's last name always made me uncomfortable, reminding me of The Handmaid's Tale and Margaret Atwood's Gilead. The handmaids, who exist to carry the babies of the elites, are stripped of anything that identifies them as individuals, including their names. As we know, if not for Harry Potter and The Handmaid's Tale, leftists would not be able to make any literary references at all, just as if not for Hitler, they would be unable to make any historical references at all. But in any case, Weiner goes on for several more paragraphs explaining why Jennifer Lopez should have made a different decision about her own last name and why her decisions are somehow relevant to the public. Indeed, she says, Jennifer Lopez's name is, whether she likes it or not, a political issue. She concludes, whether or not to take a spouse's name is a personal decision. But the personal is political now more than ever, and especially for celebrities. Like every star or every mortal with an Instagram account, Miss Affleck has constructed a persona for public consumption. She has used her platform to tell the tale of the upward trajectory of a strong, independent woman, a woman who has gone from backup dancer to global superstar. Her brand is intense competence and hardcore self-sufficiency, in control and loving it, as she sings in Jenny from the Block. Whoever Jennifer Affleck is in her private life, J-Lo is a woman who might love a man but doesn't need one. Imagine if, in her newsletter, she had said, I love my husband. Right now, though, women are under attack, and I won't participate in a tradition that's historically rooted in women relinquishing their identities and their legal standing. I'm giving my husband my heart, but I'm keeping my name. Or imagine if Ben Affleck had become Ben Lopez. Now, admittedly, I'm sort of surprised that he didn't go that direction. And I'm also surprised, pleasantly so, by Jennifer Lopez's response in Vogue this week, where she offers a defense of family and of tradition. She says, reacting to the New York Times article, what, really? People are still going to call me Jennifer Lopez, but my legal name will be Mrs. Affleck because we're joined together. We're husband and wife. I'm proud of that. I don't think that's a problem. And then when asked about the idea of Ben Affleck becoming Ben Lopez, she says, no, it's not traditional. It doesn't have any romance to it. It feels like it's a power move. You know what I mean? I'm very much in control of my own life and destiny, and I feel empowered as a woman and as a person. I can understand that people have their feelings about it, and that's okay too, but if you want to know how I feel about it, it just feels romantic. It still carries tradition and romance to me, and maybe I'm just that kind of girl. Well said. And now, admittedly, Jennifer Lopez has been married something like 14 times. Under most circumstances, you would not consider her to be an advocate or defender of the sanctity of marriage and the beauty and importance of tradition. But on this issue, at least, she's correct. And Miss Weiner in the New York Times is, like so many other left-wing feminists, frivolous, ridiculous, spiteful, despising what is traditional simply because it is traditional, without being able to articulate any reason beyond that. So there are 3 points to be made here. First, you notice how quickly the let women make their own decisions facade falls away. As we see time and time again, the feminist left, they respect and value a woman's choice, provided she makes exactly the choice that they want her to make. If she makes the personal choice they prefer, then it's good that, she made a personal choice and they should respect her choices. If she makes the personal choice they do not prefer, then the personal is political and they have every right to attack her for it. That's just the way the game is played. Second, Lopez is correct that sharing a last name is about unity. It's about being joined, bonded together. The modern, enlightened, quote-unquote, marriage is one where nothing is shared. Separate finances, separate names, separate lives, and eventually separate houses and separate divorce lawyers. Because the whole point of marriage, the reason it exists, is to bring man and woman together as one. That's its beauty, its mystery, its reason. If you're determined to maintain an entirely separate identity from your spouse, then you're really determined to close yourself off from the true nature and the greatest joys of the marital union. Now, you could say that a last name is just a last name. What does it matter? But a name is a symbol, and symbols are deeply important and meaningful to human beings. The choice to share a name is symbolic, as discussed, but it symbolizes unity and fidelity. The choice to not share a name is also symbolic then. And what does that symbolize? Well, the opposite of unity and fidelity. One of my favorite Avett Brothers song called Murder in the City says, "Always remember there was nothing worth sharing like the love that let us share our name." And that's what it symbolizes. Man and wife share a name because of the love that bonds them together. Third point, finally, to Jennifer Lopez's point, tradition does matter. Now, it may not always be enough to defend a tradition merely on the basis that it is a tradition. Not all traditions should continue indefinitely just because they're traditions. But traditions matter. They tie you to your ancestors, to your heritage, to your past. Our ancestors speak to us through tradition. Traditions are their voice, the democracy of the dead, as Chesterton said. What this means is that if you're going to tear down a tradition or get away from one, you better have a very good reason. We may not continue every tradition, but there needs to be a reason to discontinue it, a compelling reason. But because, even if at first you're doing something and you're saying, well, why are we doing this? And the fact that generations and generations and for centuries and millennia before you, people did that thing, that's like an indication that there's something worth doing here. And again, that's not always going to mean that you should continue it. But to just reflexively say, oh, we're not going to do this anymore. That's the problem. And the left reacts reflexively to tradition. Only their reflex is to reject it. It may not always make sense to defend traditions merely on the basis that they are traditions, but it makes even less sense to attack them merely on the basis that they are traditions. In the case of marital names, the tradition is good because, as we've already covered, it fosters unity and a shared purpose and a shared identity. It's also good because it is a tradition. It became a tradition because it's good and meaningful, and the fact that it is a tradition only makes it all the more good and meaningful. And that ultimately is why the left wants to dismantle it, because they seek to dismantle everything that is good and meaningful, especially if it's traditional. And that is why Jennifer Weiner, not Lopez, is today canceled. And that'll do it for this portion of the show. As we move over to the members block, hope to see you there. If not, talk to you tomorrow. Godspeed.